Friends of No and Low Code, friends of Airtable, today I'd like to show you how to connect the ChatGPT API to Airtable. I know I'm a bit late to the party. This is beginning of 2024 that I'm recording this, but I think it's still valuable, and you don't have to use Make, you don't have to use Zapier. All you need to know is a little bit of scripting, and that's what we look at in this video. Let's get started. So I'm in Airtable here, and I'd like to show you the use case we're dealing with. The use case is that we're running a startup festival and we get submissions from startups. They send us their names, the short title, and then a description. The description can be quite long, up to 20 sentences or so, and I'd like to summarize with the help of AI that description so we get like a quick grasp of what the particular startup is doing. Let's also talk about Airtable AI quickly. Airtable has their own native AI at this point. Unfortunately, not all users, including myself, have access to it. So this will, of course, change things in the future. Most likely, this use case that we're dealing with here will be covered by Airtable AI. Currently, we don't have access to it yet, so it still makes sense to work with ChatGPT. But even if Airtable AI is rolled out to all users in the near future, there definitely can be use cases where it still makes sense to use OpenAI and their features, like more advanced use cases, maybe image analysis, maybe other use cases. So I think it's still worthwhile to understand how to connect to ChatGPT directly. In our case, using scripting, because it just gives you a lot of power and will basically give you a lot more options down the road. So let's have a look at the OpenAI API documentation. You will need an OpenAI account, which you can create under platform.openai.com. This is also where you will have to add your credit card or payment credentials, because sending requests to OpenAI costs some money. So you can see that under usage here. And you will also have your API key from here. The API key is important to authorize the request to OpenAI. And I've grabbed the API key here already and saved here. Please don't use this. I also right away delete this after the video. So basically this won't work anymore after having recorded this video. You can read the documentation here. The API at this point, OpenAI's API is pretty comprehensive. There are a lot of features. We're just interested in text generation today and then the chat completions. And here you can see the basic layout of a request. So we have an endpoint here. We need to pass some header parameters, basically the authorization where we add the API key, and then two necessary parameters that we have to pass. One is model and then messages. We can see this more detailed under API reference, chat, and then create chat completion. So this is the entire documentation. Once again, the endpoint here, and then the parameters that we have to pass as part of the body. Messages and model are required. There are many other parameters that can be passed, as you can see down here. And we can't go over all of these in this video. Maybe one that I'd like to point out is temperature. Temperature basically controls how creative the output is going to be of the API. So you can pass a 0, which is as deterministic as possible, and anything as high as 2, which is the most creative output, basically. So this, of course, highly depends on your use case. As you can see here, the default is always 1. Let's look at how a request is structured. We need to pass the model. You can see under documentation models, all the models here that are available. For our use case, we are going to use GPT-4. And then every model like GPT-4 also has a couple of kind of submodels, like this 1106 preview at this point, which has like a very large context window, so you can pass a lot of tokens to it, a lot of essentially a lot of text or content to it. As I said, we are going to use GPT-4. And then the second part is messages. Messages can be, you can basically construct a lot of back and forth here with the AI. But we're going to stick to what they have done here, basically define a system role and then the user message. So a system role, you see role and then system and then the content that we're passing. The system role is defining how we want the API, the AI to behave. So in this case, they're saying you're a helpful assistant. I know it says in the documentation that if you're not passing anything, so if you don't do this system role and only pass the user role, it always behaves similar to this. So you're a helpful assistant. So ChatGPT always tries to be helpful in a way. But we can make this more granularly. We could say in our case, please behave like a startup expert or whatever. So we have a system role and then the user role. And the user role is where we pass our content, where we pass our prompt, basically. I think that is all we need to know for now. More is not necessary. And now let's look at writing the script. So let's write the script. We are adding an extension, of course, the scripting extension. And then we're deleting everything that's here and we are writing a quick outline of what we want to do. And I think we want to grab the data from record and then we want to send a request to ChatGPT slash the OpenAI API and then update the record with the ChatGPT result. So that is the rough outline of what we want to do. How do we grab the data from the record? The first thing we need to do is actually pick the record. So we can say const record is we're awaiting the input record async. And here we need to pass a message. We say, please select a record. And then the second thing is that we need to pass a table. So actually say table base get table. This is called leads. And then we need to pass that table here. So if I run this, I get a record picker here with the three, excuse me, the 3 records that we saw in our table. If I'm selecting one of these records, we can actually console log this. If I'm selecting one of these records, I want to grab the description, because the description is what we want to pass to ChatGPT in order to write the summary for us. So we can say const description is record.getCellValue description. So if we log this, we should see the printed description for the selected record. So now let's send a request to ChatGPT. How do we do this? We say const res. Res is like just the response that we get back from the API. Is await remote fetch async. What is remote fetch async? This is basically something that Airtable added a few years ago, where you can send an HTTP request from Airtable servers and not from the browser. Because if we would send it from the browser, then the OpenAI API wouldn't accept the request. So we need to send it from Airtable's server. That is very, very handy. If you're using an automation script, you don't have remote fetch async. There you actually only have fetch. So just like this. And this always is sent from the server, but the extension scripts, like if we would use fetch here in the extension script, then it would be sent from the browser. So we need to actually send it via remote fetch async. I know it's a bit complicated, but trust me on this. The first thing that remote fetch async wants is the URL, as it says here. And the URL is our endpoint. So it's basically this. This is the address that we want to target, right? We want to target the OpenAI API and then the chat completions endpoint. Now we need to send some more parameters. As we know from here, we need to send headers, and unfortunately, they don't have this just for JavaScript here, only for Node.js, where you can sort of install an OpenAI package. So this doesn't really help us. So the closest example we get here is via the CURL request. But we know we have to pass two headers. One is the content type and then the authorization. So we're going to do that by saying, we need to pass headers. Sorry, one thing I forgot is that we need to specify the method. Of course, that is a post request. We should see this here exactly. So this is a post request. Headers, we are passing the content type and then application JSON. And then we need to pass authorization, and this is a bearer. And now we're adding our API key, which we grab from here, and we add it. So this basically authorizes us with the OpenAI API. And now we need to pass the body. Body needs to be JSON stringified. And then we are passing the body parameters. The body parameters, as we know, here it's called data, need to be messages and model. So let's do model first. We say model and we say GPT-4. We know that that is the model we want to use. And then messages. And messages basically is an array. And then an array of those messages here. So we have two. The first one is the role system, and content is please behave, please act like a startup expert. We want a startup expert to write those summaries for us. And then the second one is user and content, and this is basically our prompt. Please summarize the following content in max 1 to 2 sentences. So now we need to pass actually the description, so this long description that we have here on the right side, and we can do this by just passing it here. So we say description following description of a startup in max 1 to 2 sentences, and then we're adding the entire description. Let's console log the response and see where this works. So we're picking a record and it's doing something. That is a good sign. Not found. Yeah, let's find out why this is not found. So we've only returned the response here. Well, we can get a closer look when we say wait, rest.json. Let's see what it says then, because then we actually see the error being logged here. And this is more helpful. The model GPT-4 does not exist. Okay, let's check the documentation. Models GPT-4. This model should exist. I've capitalized GPT. So let's do this. Let's try again. This looks much better. So the status is now 200. 200 is always good. 200 means everything worked. The request got accepted and also could be handled. And here we get the response back. The response gives us a bunch of details. What we're interested in is choices. Then the first item here in that array. Then there's a message. And then it gives us the response, which looks okay. Could be shorter still. And maybe we just say startup in one sentence, short and snappy. And now let's log exactly. Let's do this differently. We say, let me call this response res.json. So this basically saves this entire object in response. And then we console log response dot choices. This is an array. We select the first item dot message dot content. This is working again. Actually close this. And there we go. There we have the single sentence. Maybe we can say in max 20 words. 10 to 20 words to make it really, really short. Or max 20 words is good. Let's do this again. Yes, this is better. There we go. Okay, and now we want to save this in our AI summary field. So the first thing we want to do is if, no, let's actually save this response, message. Save this, and we say if response message, then we want to do something. We want to say await table dot update record async. The record we have still saved up here. The first thing we need to pass here is record.id. And now we can select the fields that we want to update. So the field we want to update is AI summary, and in the AI summary we post our response message. So this should work. Last thing I want to do is I want to create a create summary button. Let's call this create summary, and this opens an extension. Opens extension, sorry, runs a script. Scripting. Let's rename this. Let's call this call OpenAI. Because now I can push this button, and this button will pass the record ID of this record to our script and will run it automatically. So let's do this. As you can see, it's working. And there we go. There we have saved our response. Perfect. We can do this for the others as well. There we go. And the third one. There we go. It still sort of gives us these quotes around it. Not really sure why it's doing that, to be honest. And the funny description is max 20 words, short and snappy, and please without quotes. Probably that's not the best way of doing it, but let's see if that changes it. Boom, without quotes. Without quotes. Sort of, I think it tries to behave like like saying something or so. I don't know, but there you saw live how we can just change the prompt here, and this will give us a different output, or will correct our output right away. So we're done with writing the script. Last thing I want to mention is we've used a scripting extension now. In modern Airtable, a lot of interfaces are used, so it's harder and harder to use extensions. Actually, what we should be doing is we should use an automation script and use the code that we've just created in a bit of an adapted form in automation scripts. The issue that we're facing with that is that automation scripts have a runtime limit of 30 seconds. So I think it's fair to say that for a use case like this, it would still work. But if you have anything that is a lot longer, it actually can take more than 30 seconds for OpenAI to send the response, and then that automation would actually fail. So the way I've done that in past projects is I've set up a proxy server that is basically sending that request to OpenAI. And then when it's done, because that process on the proxy server can run for minutes or even longer, and when that's done, it's sending the response back to Airtable. So if you're interested in how that looks like and how that would work, it's a bit more involved than what we've done here now. But if you're interested, please let me know, and I'm very, very happy to record a video about that and show the entire setup. Potentially, it would also make sense for an automation script to just maybe use Zapier or Make for that. But of course, the purpose of this video was to not use Zapier and Make because that's additional costs and is for the use case that we've described here now, just not necessary. And the last thing I want to show you is a course I'm recording, Airtable scripting for NoCoders. I hope to launch this before the end of February. It's going to be a step-by-step course where I show you exactly how to write scripts and how to become proficient in writing scripts in Airtable. There's going to be a bit of JavaScript basics in there, then how the scripting API works. So a few things you've also seen in this video. Then we're going to feature a lot of scripting use cases, a lot of live examples. And then also, of course, how to use ChatGPT or AI in general to make writing scripts a lot easier. Writing scripts in Airtable is really the next level. It allows for so many more use cases that are simply hard to tackle without writing code. This is the course to learn about it, specifically tailored to Airtable. So if you're interested in it and you want to dive a bit deeper into how does it work, what are the fundamentals behind it, how can it take my Airtable setups to the next level, then I highly encourage you to put your name and email on the list. You can also let me know whether you have any content requests or your specific use case, your specific examples that you want to see featured in this course. The link is down below, and I'd be super stoked if I would see you sign up for that. Yeah, and that's it for today's video. I hope that you learned something. I hope that you are able to apply this in your own setups, that it really helps you. Let me know in the comments below. Always feel free to reach out with questions. I'm very, very happy to answer them. And I wish you all the best and happy automating. Speak to you soon. Bye.